Question 1. During which project management process group is the project charter formally authorized and key stakeholders identified? A. Planning. B. Executing. C. Initiating. D. Monitoring and controlling. Answer: C. Initiating. The initiating process group is where a project is formally authorized and the initial scope and stakeholders are identified. The project charter, a crucial document that formally authorizes the project and grants the project manager authority, is created and approved in this phase. For instance, before building a new software feature, a project charter would be developed to define the project's purpose and appoint the project manager. Always remember that initiating is about getting the project officially started and getting everyone on board with its core purpose. Question 2. A project manager is reviewing a control chart that shows a series of data points falling outside the upper and lower control limits. What does this situation most likely indicate? A. The process is stable and performing within expectations. B. The process is out of control and requires investigation. C. The project budget is exceeding its allocated funds. D. The project schedule is ahead of baseline. Answer: B. The process is out of control and requires investigation. A control chart is a tool used in quality management to determine if a process is stable and predictable or if it is out of control. When data points fall outside the upper or lower control limits, it indicates that the process is experiencing special cause variation, meaning something unusual has occurred that needs investigation and corrective action. For example, if a manufacturing line's defect rate suddenly jumps beyond the upper control limit, it signals a problem that needs immediate attention. Always consider points outside control limits as a red flag for process stability. Question 3. In an Agile project, what is the primary purpose of the daily stand-up meeting, daily scrum? A. To assign new tasks to team members for the day. B. To discuss potential changes to the project scope with stakeholders. C. For team members to synchronize activities and plan for the next 24 hours. D. To present completed features to the product owner for approval. Answer: C. For team members to synchronize activities and plan for the next 24 hours. The daily scrum, or daily stand-up, is a brief meeting for the development team to synchronize their activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours. During this meeting, team members typically answer 3 questions: what they did yesterday, what they will do today, and if they have any impediments. This fosters transparency and ensures the team is aligned on their sprint goals. Think of it as a quick huddle to make sure everyone is on the same page and to identify any roadblocks early. Question 4. What document describes how project risks will be identified, analyzed, and responded to? A. Risk register. B. Risk report. C. Risk management plan. D. Issue log. Answer: C. Risk management plan. The risk management plan is a component of the project management plan that describes how risk management activities will be structured and performed for the project. It outlines the methodologies, roles and responsibilities, budgeting, timing, risk categories, and definitions of risk probability and impact. For instance, it would specify whether a qualitative or quantitative approach will be used for risk analysis. Always remember that the risk management plan tells you how you'll manage risks, not what the risks are. Question 5. Which of the following best describes the critical path in a project schedule? A. The path with the most resources allocated. B. The sequence of activities that represents the shortest duration of the project. C. The sequence of activities that represents the longest duration of the project. D. The path with the highest risk activities. Answer: C. The sequence of activities that represents the longest duration of the project. The critical path is the sequence of activities that determines the earliest completion date of the project and represents the longest path through the project network diagram. Any delay on a critical path activity will directly delay the entire project completion. For example, if a construction project has 3 parallel paths, the critical path would be the one that takes the most time to complete, dictating the overall project timeline. Focus on the critical path to manage your project's overall duration effectively. Question 6. A project manager is conducting a meeting to define the project scope by decomposing the major deliverables into smaller, more manageable components. What tool or technique is being used here? A. Expert judgment. B. Product analysis. C. Brainstorming. D. Decomposition. Answer: D. Decomposition. Decomposition is a technique used for dividing and subdividing the project scope and project deliverables into smaller, more manageable parts. This process helps in creating the work breakdown structure, WBS, which organizes the entire scope of the project. For instance, breaking down, develop new software, into design database, code user interface, and test modules is an example of decomposition. Remember, decomposition is all about breaking big things into smaller, more digestible pieces to gain clarity and control. Question 7. What is the primary purpose of a sprint retrospective in Scrum? A. To demonstrate the completed work to stakeholders. B. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. C. To discuss and plan the work for the upcoming sprint. D. To inspect how the last sprint went with regard to people, relationships, process, and tools. Answer: D. To inspect how the last sprint went with regard to people, relationships, process, and tools. The sprint retrospective is a formal opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. It's about continuously improving the team's processes, interactions, and tools, rather than focusing solely on the product. For example, a team might discuss whether their daily stand-ups are effective or if they need to improve their collaboration tools. This meeting is crucial for fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptation within an Agile team. Question 8. You are managing a project and discover that a key stakeholder, who has significant influence, holds a negative view of the project. Which engagement strategy would be most appropriate for this stakeholder? A. Manage closely. B. Monitor. C. Keep informed. D. Satisfy. Answer: A. Manage closely. For stakeholders with high power and high interest, or those who are highly influential and negatively disposed, the strategy is typically to manage closely. This involves actively engaging with them, addressing their concerns, and attempting to gain their support or mitigate their opposition through frequent communication and proactive issue resolution. For example, if a senior manager is against your project, you'd meet with them regularly to understand their objections and try to find common ground. Never underestimate the importance of actively engaging critical stakeholders, especially those who are resistant. Question 9. In a project context, what does the term lessons learned primarily refer to? A. Mistakes made during the project that should be avoided. B. Knowledge gained during a project that can be applied to future projects. C. Training modules provided to new project team members. D. A list of project risks that materialized. Answer: B. Knowledge gained during a project that can be applied to future projects. Lessons learned are the knowledge gained during a project that documents what was successful or unsuccessful, including the causes of issues, reasoning behind corrective actions, and other observations. This information is collected throughout the project and compiled into a lessons learned register, which can then be used to improve future projects. For instance, if a specific communication strategy worked particularly well on one project, it becomes a lesson learned that can benefit subsequent projects. Always aim to capture and share lessons learned to foster continuous improvement across your organization. Question 10. A project team is working on developing a new product. They are frequently encountering new requirements and changes from the customer, making it difficult to finalize the scope. Which project life cycle approach would likely be most suitable for this situation? A. Predictive, waterfall. B. Iterative. C. Hybrid. D. Adaptive, agile. Answer: D. Adaptive, agile. An adaptive, agile life cycle is ideal for projects with high levels of change and evolving requirements because it embraces flexibility and continuous feedback. Instead of trying to define the entire scope up front, agile methods deliver work in small iterations and allow for frequent adjustments based on customer input. For example, developing a mobile app where user preferences are still being explored would greatly benefit from an agile approach, allowing for feature adjustments in each sprint. When requirements are highly uncertain, an agile approach helps you remain responsive and deliver value incrementally. Question 11. What is the main purpose of a work breakdown structure, WBS? A. To illustrate the hierarchical structure of a project's deliverables and work. B. To define the organizational chart for the project team. C. To provide a detailed schedule for project activities. D. To list all project risks and their mitigation strategies. Answer: A. To illustrate the hierarchical structure of a project's deliverables and work. The work breakdown structure, WBS, is a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work to be carried out by the project team to accomplish project objectives and create the required deliverables. It breaks down the project into smaller, more manageable components, making it easier to plan, execute, and monitor. For example, a WBS for building a house would start with house at the top, then break into foundation, framing, roofing, and so on, each further decomposed into detailed tasks. A well-structured WBS is fundamental for clearly defining and managing your project's scope. Question 12. During the project execution, a team member identifies a potential problem that could impact the project schedule if not addressed. What should be done with this identified concern? A. Ignore it unless it becomes an actual problem. B. Document it in the issue log for tracking and resolution. C. Immediately escalate it to the project sponsor. D. Resolve it independently without consulting the project manager. Answer: B. Document it in the issue log for tracking and resolution. A potential problem, even if not yet a full-blown issue, should be documented in the issue log. The issue log is a project document where all issues are recorded, tracked, and managed from identification through resolution. This ensures that concerns are not forgotten and appropriate actions can be planned. For example, if a key supplier mentions a possible delay, recording this in the issue log allows the project manager to track it and develop contingency plans. Always proactively log and track any potential or actual issues to maintain control over your project. Question 13. Which of the following is a common output of the planned quality management process? A. Quality control measurements. B. Quality metrics. C. Verified deliverables. D. Quality audits. Answer: B. Quality metrics. Quality metrics are an output of the planned quality management process. These metrics specifically describe a project or product attribute and how the control quality process will measure it. They are operational definitions that outline how quality will be measured. For example, a quality metric might define on-time delivery as 95% of items delivered by the promised date, or defect rate as fewer than 0.5 defects per 100 units. Defining these metrics early helps ensure that quality is measured consistently and effectively throughout the project. Question 14. What is the primary purpose of a change control board, CCB, in a project? A. To facilitate daily stand-up meetings. B. To authorize or reject changes to the project baseline. C. To manage project team conflicts. D. To conduct quality inspections on deliverables. Answer: B. To authorize or reject changes to the project baseline. A Change Control Board, CCB, is a formally constituted group of stakeholders responsible for reviewing, evaluating, approving, delaying, or rejecting changes to the project. Their main role is to ensure that only necessary and beneficial changes are implemented, thereby maintaining control over the project's scope, schedule, and cost baselines. For instance, if a customer requests a major new feature, the CCB would assess its impact before approving or denying the change. Remember, the CCB acts as a gatekeeper to prevent uncontrolled changes from derailing your project. Question 15. A project manager is updating the project schedule and finds that a critical activity is taking longer than expected. To mitigate the delay, they decide to perform two activities in parallel that were originally planned sequentially. What schedule compression technique is being used? A. Crashing. B. Fast tracking. C. Resource leveling. D. Scope reduction. Answer: B. Fast tracking. Fast tracking is a schedule compression technique where activities that would normally be performed sequentially are performed in parallel, or at least partially in parallel. This often increases risk and may result in rework, but it can significantly shorten the project duration. For example, starting the interior painting of a house before the exterior brickwork is entirely finished would be fast tracking. While fast tracking can save time, it's important to be aware of the increased risks it introduces. Question 16. What is the main characteristic of the definition of an assumption in project management? A. A potential future event that may or may not occur. B. A condition or scenario that is believed to be true, real, or certain without proof. C. A constraint or limiting factor that affects the project. D. A specific requirement that the project must meet. Answer: B. A condition or scenario that is believed to be true, real, or certain without proof. An assumption is a factor in the planning process that is considered to be true, real, or certain without proof or demonstration. Project plans are often built upon a foundation of assumptions, and if these assumptions prove to be false, they can become significant risks. For example, assuming that a necessary piece of equipment will be delivered on time is an assumption that needs to be tracked. Always document and validate your assumptions to avoid unexpected problems later in the project. Question 17. Which process involves performing planned, periodic activities to determine whether a project's processes and deliverables comply with organizational and regulatory standards? A. Control quality. B. Manage quality, perform quality assurance. C. Plan quality management. D. Validate scope. Answer: B. Manage quality, perform quality assurance. Manage quality, also known as perform quality assurance, is the process of auditing the quality requirements and the results from quality control measurements to ensure that appropriate quality standards and operational definitions are used. It focuses on improving the processes to enhance the likelihood of meeting quality requirements. For example, a quality assurance team might review the project's documentation and processes to ensure they align with ISO standards. This process is all about making sure you are doing things the right way to achieve desired quality outcomes. Question 18. A stakeholder is concerned that their department's resources are being overutilized by the project. Which project management knowledge area primarily deals with addressing such concerns? A. Project Communications Management. B. Project Stakeholder Management. C. Project Resource Management. D. Project Cost Management. Answer: C. Project Resource Management. Project Resource Management is the knowledge area that includes the processes to identify, acquire, and manage the resources needed for the successful completion of the project. This involves planning for resources, estimating their requirements, acquiring them, developing the project team, managing the team, and controlling resources. Addressing overutilization directly falls under managing resources, which involves optimizing resource assignments and leveling workloads. Understanding and balancing resource demands is key to ensuring your project has the right people and equipment when needed. Question 19. What is the definition of variance in project management? A. The difference between planned and actual performance. B. The total amount of money allocated for the project. C. The estimated time required to complete an activity. D. The level of risk associated with a project. Answer: A. The difference between planned and actual performance. Variance refers to the quantifiable deviation, difference, or divergence from a known baseline or expected value. In project management, it most commonly refers to the difference between what was planned, e.g., budget, schedule, and what actually occurred. For example, if an activity was planned to cost $500 but actually cost $600, there is a cost variance of $100. Tracking variances helps project managers identify issues early and take corrective actions to keep the project on track. Question 20. Which project document outlines the roles, responsibilities, and authorities of project team members? A. Project Charter. B. Resource Management Plan. C. Responsibility Assignment Matrix, RAM. D. Stakeholder Register. Answer: C. Responsibility Assignment Matrix, RAM. A responsibility assignment matrix, RAM, often in the form of a RACI, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, chart, clearly identifies the roles and responsibilities for specific work activities. It details who is responsible for doing the work, who is accountable for ensuring it's done, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. For instance, in a software development project, a RAM would specify who codes, who tests, and who approves. This matrix is essential for clarifying expectations and avoiding confusion regarding team member duties. Question 21. A project manager is analyzing a project's financial performance. The earned value, EV, is $100,000, the actual cost, AC, is $120,000, and the planned value, PV, is $90,000. What does the Cost Performance Index, CPI, indicate in this scenario? A. The project is ahead of schedule. B. The project is under budget. C. The project is over budget. D. The project is on schedule. Answer: C. The project is over budget. The Cost Performance Index, CPI, is calculated as earned value, EV, divided by actual cost, AC. In this case, CPI equals $100,000/$120,000 equals 0.83. A CPI less than 1.0 indicates that the project is over budget, meaning it is getting less value for the money spent than planned. For example, if your CPI is 0.83, for every dollar you've spent, you've only earned 83 cents worth of work. A CPI below 1 is a clear sign that you need to investigate cost expenditures and implement corrective actions. Question 22. In an Agile context, what is a user story? A. A detailed technical specification for a software component. B. A formal contract outlining project requirements. C. A short, simple description of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability. D. A comprehensive report summarizing project progress to stakeholders. Answer: C. A short, simple description of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability. A user story is an informal, natural language description of a feature of a software system from an end-user perspective. It typically follows the format, as a type of user, I want, some goal, so that, some reason/benefit. For instance, as a customer, I want to be able to reset my password so I can access my account if I forget it. User stories help Agile teams understand the value they are delivering to the customer. When writing user stories, focus on the user's need and the value that feature will provide. Question 23. Which document formally acknowledges the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities? A. Project Management Plan. B. Business Case. C. Project Charter. D. Scope Statement. Answer: C. Project Charter. The project charter is the document that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. It essentially kicks off the project and provides high-level information about its objectives, stakeholders, and overall direction. For example, without a signed project charter, a project manager might struggle to acquire a budget or allocate team members. Consider the project charter as the official green light for your project. Question 24. A project manager is receiving bids from various vendors for a complex component of the project. Which project management process is this activity part of? A. Plan procurement management. B. Conduct procurements. C. Control procurements. D. Identify stakeholders. Answer: B. Conduct procurements. Conduct procurements is the process of obtaining seller responses, selecting a seller, and awarding a contract. This is where the project team sends out requests for proposals, RFPs, or invitations for bids, IFBs, evaluates the responses, negotiates with sellers, and ultimately signs contracts. For instance, if you're building a new data center, this process involves sending out the specifications for servers and then evaluating the different vendor proposals. This process is where you actively engage with potential sellers to secure the necessary goods or services. Question 25. What is the primary benefit of creating a robust project communication management plan? A. To ensure all project documents are filed correctly. B. To minimize the need for informal communication. C. To ensure timely and appropriate generation, collection, distribution, storage, and ultimate disposition of project information. D. To define the project's financial budget. Answer: C. To ensure timely and appropriate generation, collection, distribution, storage, and ultimate disposition of project information. The primary benefit of a robust communications management plan is to ensure that the right information reaches the right people at the right time. It details how, when, and by whom project information will be administered and disseminated. For example, it would specify that weekly project progress reports are sent to stakeholders via email every Friday afternoon. A clear communication plan is essential for keeping everyone informed and engaged, preventing misunderstandings and ensuring smooth project execution. Question 26. In risk management, what is the term for a pre-planned response that is put into effect if a specific risk event occurs? A. Mitigation plan. B. Contingency plan. C. Avoidance strategy. D. Transference agreement. Answer: B. Contingency plan. A contingency plan is a specific response that is developed for identified risks that are accepted. It is a predefined course of action to be taken if a specific risk event actually occurs, helping to reduce the impact of the risk. For example, if a key supplier might be late, a contingency plan could be to have a backup supplier ready to step in. Think of a contingency plan as your plan B if a known risk materializes. Question 27. Which knowledge area focuses on ensuring that the project produces the desired product, service, or result, including all the work required and only the work required? A. Project schedule management. B. Project scope management. C. Project quality management. D. Project resource management. Answer: B. Project scope management. Project scope management includes the processes required to ensure that the project includes all the work required, and only the work required, to complete the project successfully. It focuses on defining and controlling what is and what is not included in the project. For example, defining the specific features for a new software application and ensuring no extra features are added, scope creep, falls under scope management. Clearly defining and managing your project scope is crucial to avoid doing unnecessary work and ensure you deliver exactly what's needed. Question 28. What is the term for a person or organization who is actively involved in the project, or whose interests may be positively or negatively affected by the execution or completion of the project? A. Project team member. B. Customer. C. Sponsor. D. Stakeholder. Answer: D. Stakeholder. A stakeholder is an individual, group, or organization who may affect, be affected by, or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. This broad definition includes the project manager, team members, customers, sponsors, functional managers, and even the public. For instance, local residents affected by a new highway construction project are key stakeholders. Identifying and understanding all your stakeholders is fundamental to successful project management. Question 29. Which of the following best describes the definition of done in Scrum? A. A checklist of requirements that must be met before a sprint can begin. B. A formal document signed by the customer indicating acceptance of the product. C. A shared understanding of the state of the product increment when it meets the quality standards required by the product. D. A list of all completed tasks in the project management plan. Answer: C. A shared understanding of the state of the product increment when it meets the quality standards required by the product. The definition of done, DOD, is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. It creates a shared understanding within the Scrum team of what it means for work to be complete, ensuring consistency and quality. For example, a DOD might include code reviewed, unit tested, integrated, and user documentation updated. A clear definition of done helps ensure that increments are consistently high quality and truly releasable. Question 30. A project manager is conducting a meeting to gain formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables from the customer. Which process is being performed? A. Control quality. B. Validate scope. C. Close project or phase. D. Monitor and control project work. Answer: B. Validate scope. Validate scope is the process of formalizing acceptance of the completed project deliverables. This involves reviewing deliverables with the customer or sponsor to ensure they are acceptable and meet the defined scope. For instance, if you've developed a new website, this process involves the client reviewing the site and formally confirming it meets their requirements. Gaining formal acceptance is a critical step that confirms the work is complete and satisfactory. Question 31. What is the primary purpose of a project management plan? A. To document all project risks. B. To serve as a comprehensive document that defines how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. C. To list all project team members and their roles. D. To present the project's financial budget to the sponsor. Answer: B. To serve as a comprehensive document that defines how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. The project management plan is the single, approved document that defines how the project is executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. It integrates and consolidates all subsidiary management plans and baselines, providing a holistic view of the project's direction. For example, it would include the scope management plan, schedule baseline, and communications plan all in one cohesive document. Consider the project management plan your definitive roadmap for how the project will be successfully completed. Question 32. Which of the following is a tool or technique used to gather requirements by bringing together key stakeholders and subject matter experts to collaboratively define product requirements? A. Interviews. B. Focus groups. C. Facilitated workshops. D. Questionnaires and surveys. Answer: C. Facilitated workshops. Facilitated workshops are a key tool and technique for gathering requirements, especially for cross-functional projects. They bring together key stakeholders with diverse perspectives to collaboratively define requirements, resolve issues, and make decisions. This highly interactive approach can quickly uncover and resolve conflicting requirements. For example, a workshop might gather representatives from sales, marketing, and engineering to define the features of a new product release. These workshops are excellent for fostering collaboration and reaching consensus on critical project aspects. Question 33. What is the main purpose of creating a resource breakdown structure, RBS? A. To allocate specific tasks to individual team members. B. To show the hierarchical breakdown of resources by category and type. C. To calculate the total cost of resources for the project. D. To identify resource dependencies between activities. Answer: B. To show the hierarchical breakdown of resources by category and type. The resource breakdown structure, RBS, is a hierarchical list of resources by category and type, used to assist in planning and controlling project resources. It categorizes resources like human resources by skill level, materials by type, or equipment by function. For example, an RBS for a software project might list developers, then subdivide into senior developers and junior developers. This structured view helps in organizing and managing the various types of resources needed for your project. Question 34. A project manager is reviewing the project performance and notices that several recent deliverables have had a higher defect rate than acceptable. Which document should the project manager update to reflect this new information and guide future quality efforts? A. Project Charter. B. Stakeholder Register. C. Lessons Learned Register. D. Risk Register. Answer: C. Lessons Learned Register. The Lessons Learned Register is a project document that records knowledge gained during a project so that it can be used on future projects. When a higher defect rate is observed, it represents valuable learning about process effectiveness, training needs, or other quality control issues. This information should be captured in the Lessons Learned Register to avoid similar problems in the future. Always strive to document both successes and challenges in your lessons learned to continually improve project execution. Question 35. In an organization transitioning to Agile, a project team is struggling with frequent changes to their sprint backlog during a sprint. What is the fundamental principle being violated here? A. The product owner's authority to prioritize. B. The development team's autonomy. C. The commitment to a stable sprint backlog for the duration of a sprint. D. The stakeholder's right to provide continuous feedback. Answer: C. The commitment to a stable sprint backlog for the duration of a sprint. A fundamental principle of Scrum is that the sprint backlog is relatively stable for the duration of a sprint once it has been committed to by the development team. While the product owner can clarify and reprioritize the product backlog, changes to the sprint backlog that would endanger the sprint goal are generally avoided. This stability allows the development team to focus and deliver the agreed-upon increment. Remember, a stable sprint backlog protects the team's ability to focus and deliver the sprint goal without constant disruption.